Hello and Happy New Year to all of you. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the year ahead. I really like this time of year because people tend to slow down during the holidays. Even if you want to get things done, a lot of businesses are shutting down early and taking some time off. So it's really a beautiful, peaceful time to daydream and think about your goals in life. And in this video, because this is a permaculture channel, we're going to be talking about how that relates to the garden, how you can set goals that you'll really stick to, and how you can get to be where you want as far as your garden vision. Welcome to True Freedom Permaculture, where I show you all the tips and tricks you need to have a green thumb, even if you weren't born with one. So when we're talking about New Year's goal settings, I think one of the first things I like to do is I like to have these big visions of goals and just think about what I want out of my garden and what's been working for me and what I'd like to tweak, and just coming up with different ideas. And I've touched upon this in the last video I did when I was talking about reflecting on the garden, but I really want to create a medicinal herb garden. And a lot of those plants, luckily, are things that grow naturally in my area. So because of that, they require less maintenance. And it's all about getting the system set up so that it can run, it can be a self-sustaining system, which really is what permaculture is. It's a series of interlocking, interconnected, self-sustaining systems. And once you have them established, because they function according to a more natural order, they are also less work for you. And that's something beautiful too. So that's going to be one of my main goals this year. My other goal is that since I moved into this house about 5 years ago, I think you might have heard me mention, if you've seen other videos, that my soil is very clay and it's very hard. And over the years, slowly but surely, as I've been doing things like planting cover crops and mulching, I have noticed a major shift for the better in the soil. It's become looser, it has been able to be less compacted. So a large portion, an important portion of plants is what you don't see. It's below the ground. So the larger and more intricate the root system is, a lot of times you will see those results in what you can see above the ground. So because my soil is looser, loamier, and more nutrient dense and rich, that has resulted in better yields from my garden. So that's something that I want to continue to work on as well. As well as, I think a third one for me is water conservation. So we went through a drought period this year, and it was so nice to know that my plants largely survived in spite of not being able to water them. And I want to make sure that I not only maintain the systems that have been working for me, but maybe also establish some new ones as well. So those are my 3 main goals for the year. And some people stop at this, and that might work for you, but I think that for me, it helps when I break it down into actual actionable steps I can take in order to reach those goals. So if you find that you're in a similar position, you can do something which is create a SMART goal. And I did not make this up. I learned about it in an integrative nutrition course that I took. And a large part of integrative nutrition is not only things like the foods we consume, but also, do we live a fulfilling life? Because that does have an impact on our overall health. And I also don't want to waste time doing things that are not aligned with my overall goals in life. So back to doing the SMART goals. SMART is an acronym. And so you want to make sure, is your goal specific? So to have a goal, let's say for me, of example, making my soil better, continuing to improve my soil. It's kind of specific. It's not really like super detailed. And so that's something where you might want to drill down a little bit, and I'll give you an example. We'll go through one together in a little bit here so you can get an idea of how one would make that more specific. The M stands for measurable. So, you know, let's say that you have a goal of wanting to produce more of your own food. Well, you could just say that, but that's not very measurable. But something that would be measurable is, I want to produce 25% of the produce that my family consumes. That's pretty measurable. So that's something that's, like I said, just one of many examples, but just to give you an idea of what creating a measurable goal might look like. The A stands for achievable or attainable. So you want to make sure that you're setting a realistic goal for yourself. Example, if you live in the tropics, if you're trying to grow goji berries, is it possible? Maybe, but I don't think that you're setting yourself up for success as much as if you were to, say, set a goal of growing pineapples for the first time. That's gonna work better in your environment. And also, when you set up goals that aren't achievable, then when you don't achieve them, it's really non-motivating. So you want to, it only works in your favor to set up goals that you think that you can realistically achieve. The R stands for relevant. So there's no point in putting a bunch of time into all of this and thinking about all of this if it's not relevant to your overall set of values, your overall goals. So make sure that it is relevant to get done what you want to get done. And then finally, the T stands for time bound. So what does that look like? Well, if you just, going back to my example of improving my garden soil, if I just said I wanted to do that, it doesn't leave me with any kind of accountability as far as breaking it up into steps, saying that I'm going to achieve X by Y date. So what would that look like? Well, I could say I am going to commit to spending 1 hour each day in my garden using methods such as mulching, cover cropping, etc., in order to achieve my overall goal of creating better soil in my garden, or 3 hours a week, whatever that looks like. But that's just an example. So make sure that you have a date, or you've broken it up into steps in which you will complete certain steps towards your goal along the way by. So like I said, it's just a way of holding yourself accountable. Otherwise, if you have these nebulous goals that are just kind of open-ended, there is a larger chance that you won't do them. So that is the idea behind a SMART goal. So let's take a look at one of my goals and how I actually break this up so you can see another real life example. Let's go make a New Year's goal. Are you ready? What's gonna be yours? Okay, so let's do a real life example together, and that way you can see how I break down one of my actual goals into a SMART goal and making it just a better one. So first of all, I would recommend that you put this all down in a place where you're gonna, you like my talking hands? In a place where you're gonna see it frequently, because if it's in the bottom of a box in your basement, you're never gonna see it, and it's less likely that it's gonna be fresh in your memory and it's gonna be something on your mind. So first, I'm using, basically, I live and die by my planner, so I'm using a blank page in the back of it, and that's what works for me. But if, like, the front of your fridge, a sheet of paper on the front of your fridge works for you, then by all means do something like that. Also, the perpetual child in me loves markers. So colors, anything like that, really gets the creative juices flowing for me, and it makes me more likely that I'm gonna do this exercise. So do whatever brings you joy. So first, let's take one of my goals and let's just slowly refine it together by using the SMART goal process. I will expand my herb garden. I can see that being a common goal or something similar for a lot of people. Nothing wrong with that, but I think that we can tweak it and make it better. So let's use the SMART process, and we want to make sure that we start here with the SMART acronym starts with an S technically. I prefer to actually start with the R. I'm an outlier. And I think that just making it relevant, make sure that this is relevant first. Because otherwise, why do all the steps? You don't want to get, you don't want to do the S, M, A, spend all this time thinking about it, and then you get to the R and you're like, oh, it doesn't even align with what I'm trying to do, right? So the R means relevant. As I mentioned, does it align with your values and your long-term objectives? So this does. It does, because I want to create my own medicine. Because if you've seen headlines recently, it's been hard to get some medicines, which is actually quite scary. We've gotten so used to being able to get and buy whatever we need at the time. So if I'm able to grow on site at my house, at least to a certain level, I can't grow morphine, obviously, but I can grow herbs that can treat a lot of common and, at least a good first step. And it'll do in a pinch if I don't have access to the medicines that I'm used to getting. So that is my big motivation. It definitely aligns with my overarching goal of wanting to take good care of my household, including myself. So yes, I do believe that it's relevant. So making sure that we're on track there. If I wasn't on track, then I would just scrap this and I would change it. So we already did the R, so let's go to the S out of order here. So specific. Is this goal specific? I don't know, I think it's still kind of general. I will expand my herb garden. These could be any herbs, but specifically, I'm gonna say, I will expand my medicinal herb garden. So what have I done now? I just added one word, medicinal, but that has made it more specific. So we know, we've drilled down, now we know what I really want to focus on. So the next one is the M for measurable. So how do we measure progress in a specific way for this one? Well, I will say, because I don't live on a large plot of land, so it's not like I have all these open fields in which I can plant a bunch of new medicinal herb crops. So I'm gonna say, I will expand my medicinal herb garden by 5 new crops. Okay. So what have we done? We added 5 new crops. So that has taken the goal, and now we know, okay, so if I come under 5, that means that I haven't achieved my goal. So we want to go to the A. It is attainable. So make sure that this is attainable for you. 5 new crops, a small plot of land, I think that that's attainable. 25 new crops on a small plot of land, maybe not so attainable. So I don't feel the need that I need to tweak that anymore, but if I felt that it wasn't achievable or attainable, then I would rewrite that. So as I mentioned, we've already done the R, so let's go to the final letter of our SMART goal, which is time-based. We want to make sure that it pushes you to a certain extent, but it doesn't push you so much that you're not going to get it done. So that's kind of like this gray area where only you know what's appropriate for you. I think everyone is aware of their full potential for the most part. So time-based, how would I make this goal into something time-based. For me, a lot of this revolves around the growing season. So I will expand my medicinal herb garden by 5 new crops during the 2023 growing season. So for this area, that means that I have, well, generally about April, Mayish until around November or so. So we added during the 2023 growing season. I'm hoping that you can read my writing. Let me move this, make sure everything's in frame there. Yep. You can see how this process has really made our goals a lot more specific, making sure everything's in the frame. We went from I will expand my herb garden, which is so-so, to I will expand my medicinal herb garden by 5 new crops during the 2023 growing season. I feel great about that goal. I think that it's much more specific. It's easy for me to see how I'm progressing with it. And so, like I said, this is just an example, but make it your own. But hopefully this will help you to create more achievable goals for yourself. I hope you found this exercise helpful. I really do, and it is something that I like to do every year at the minimum. Sometimes I do it even more frequently. And I'm really excited to just become more knowledgeable, more self-sustaining, being able to grow my own food and medicine, which I really look at as one thing. And yeah, just being able to take better care of myself and my family. And I think a lot of people have that goal in mind. So good luck. If you are going to be setting certain goals, I'd love to hear about them in the comments, what you are looking forward to in the year ahead in your garden, some things, some new crops you want to try out. Share it, and I really think that other people will benefit from hearing about them. So thank you again for another great year. I look forward to the coming one, and I will see you all soon.